The following broadcast contains mature themes and disturbing subject matter. Viewer and listening discretion is strongly advised.
Greetings and happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to one and to all. Perhaps it is Thursday, depending upon where you are on the globe. Give yourselves a round of applause for making it to and through another day, because each day is truly a blessing. And I would encourage you that no matter what storm you may be facing, to look for something, just a modicum of joy in life, because I do believe there is always something. I'm actually a testament of that. So, again, keep that in mind as we go through these tumultuous times. So, without further delay, let us get straight into this update. Now, I did a live recording yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. My apologies. I'm extremely busy, but I still have time to present to you, or those who are interested, some very important matters that are going on, again, right here in the nation's capital, that may affect others, and to those that listen abroad. And again, I thank all of you. Just pay attention and be vigilant. So I spoke about the the individual that on last Sunday was arrested for setting up a tent outside of St Matthew the Apostles Cathedral near the intersection of 1700 Rhode Island Avenue in Northwest Washington, D.C. This particular mass, as I mentioned in the live previously, was called Red Mass, and it is an annual mass that is really commemorative of the 73rd annual mark of the Supreme Court. Now, because of this incident involving 41-year-old Lous Geri of New Jersey, no justices, according to reports, attended, and while doors were slated to open earlier, of course, that was delayed. The news, and again, I implore you to do your research, because sometimes people jump the gun, and as I said, some people sometimes jump the gun. And while I do my best to cross-reference, sometimes information I receive may not be correct or updated at the time. So, as of today, and again, this may change tomorrow, we shall see. This is the photo that was released as to the suspect, Lous Geri, again, 41 years old, from Vineland or Vinland, New Jersey. Now, I did some research yesterday after the broadcast was completed, and of course, I could not get back on. Trust me, I wanted to, but I could not, because a lot of the documents I was able to obtain would have required at least 2 hours to redact. And again, with my schedule, it would have taken forever. So I am going to present to you a few items that are germane to this particular broadcast. Not everything, of course, for obvious reasons, but I did redact certain information just out of respect and out of just trying to keep people safe. Again, if people really want to find you, and I'm being extremely serious, that they can, but if I can do my best to protect, at least for purposes of my broadcast, that is what I'm going to do. So again, this is a photo. I'm going to say allegedly to be prudent and responsible of 41-year-old Lous Geri of New Jersey. Now, the first thing I want to bring up is the documents that I reviewed last night, and there are quite a few. I was looking for a particular description, and out of all of the reports and documents I reviewed, and trust me, I combed through them. Certain things were not listed, and of the few reports, according to news outlets, again, certain things weren't presented to the public. Again, and I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but when certain individuals are accused of things, whether it's the right individual or not, photos photos are plastered all over social media. And even if they are mistaken, and keep in mind, as humans, we do make mistakes. Okay, we do make mistakes. That is why you may see a lot of retractions from newspaper articles or reporters. So, again, to be prudent and responsible, just keep an eye on things as much as you are able to do. But I have found that a lot of times when certain individuals that are known to law enforcement, when their identity is hidden, at least temporarily, there are reasons behind that. I'm going to reserve my commentary for that until I'm just going to say a few days. But one thing that I did notice during my research, and bear with me here, and hopefully you all can see this. This is the Superior Court of the District of Columbia Criminal Division, arraignment and presentment. And what you can see circled is possession of a destructive device. You have the DC code. You see that it's granted. And down below, bond set, no bond. So, of course, I redacted the clerk's name, the judge's name, and I also redacted case number and the date of birth of Lous Geri. So again, this is the arraignment presentment sheet. Hopefully you all can see that. Again, some of you can obtain this. You just know how to look. Next we have charges. You can see here, possession of a destructive device, false report of a weapon of mass destruction, The presentment, I just presented the presentment to you just a few months ago. So if I need to go back, I will. He's being represented, public defender, but again, I redacted that as well. Again, no bond. Probable cause found. Preventive detention. Amended general order. And if you look in the very middle, there's a Gerstein affidavit filed. We're going to look at that really quickly. That's not it. And these are a lot of documents. So, sure I have the right one. Here we go. My apologies. This is a lot going on, a lot of information. So, Gerstein affidavit. In Washington, D.C., it is a sworn statement by a law enforcement officer filed with the court to establish probable cause for an arrest, leading to a judicial review to determine if the arrest was lawful and if the defendant should be held. This document is named after the Supreme Court case Gerstein versus Pugh and is crucial for ensuring due process rights are protected during the initial stages of a criminal case. Purpose of Gerstein affidavit. Probable cause. It provides the factual basis for the arrest to show that there was probable cause to believe a crime was committed and that the defendant committed it. Next, judicial review. The court reviews the Gerstein affidavit to decide whether the arrest was justified and if the defendant should be detained before trial. And something I want you all to pay attention of. This is another document courtesy of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia Criminal Division. And this is just the front page of the complaint. Again, Lous Geri. But if you pay close attention to a lot of news outlets that spoke about this, and I did yesterday until I did further research when my recording was completed. Kept saying New Jersey man, New Jersey man, New Jersey man, because the identification that he had on him stated Vineland or Vinland, New Jersey. However, and this is what I found to be odd last night, and after I did a little bit more digging today, Lous Geri, again, some of you might be able to find this online yourself, had been staying in a motel in Arizona. Okay, earmark that. He had been staying in a motel in Arizona. Okay, so this is just the top page of the complaint. Again, I redacted a lot of the information. As you can see, so I'll leave that there for a little bit. And as I mentioned, there's a Gerstein affidavit filed and a supplemental file. Those of you that might be interested. The case law referenced in this is Gerstein versus Pugh, 420 U.S. 103, 1975. And it's an opinion from the United States Supreme Court, number 73477, which was argued March the 25th, 1974. It was re-argued October the 21st, 1974, and decided on February 18th, 1975. Certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the 5th District. So that's just a little bit of background for you legals out there. So again, this is allegedly, again, I must say that to remain prudent and responsible. This is the only photo I was able to come up with. Again, that could change. We shall see. But again, I mentioned that there was some disturbing information in here. So let's get to that. Now, this is just a part of the conversation. Again, there's a lot, but this is a condensed version. But I wanted you all to understand the severity of this and why, unless I've missed a lot. And I must be honest, I just got off work maybe an hour or so ago doing reports and looking for people, and that can take a long time, and then writing reports. So again, it's a lot, but I wanted to bring you some information, some new information that is finally trickling down. Now, this is Lous Geri speaking to an officer. And again, all of the officers' names are available, but I did not put those documents up, and I'm not. If I were to, which I would not, they would be redacted for obvious reasons. Again, people can obtain it, but that's not what I do. I believe law enforcement, they already have targets on their backs, and I'm not going to add to it. Again, a lot of things are actually public, but I don't choose to go that route. So this is part of the conversation. Do you want me to throw one out? I'll test it out on the street. I have 100+ of them. After being told he would be removed against his will, Geri says, several of your people are going to, I'll just say, pass away from one of these. One of these he's relating to some of these devices, and as I mentioned, there were over 200 found. Lous Geri, later handed the bomb technician. Again, there was a bomb technician out there. And the fact, again, I have to go back to This is an annual event where a lot of dignitaries, politicians, Supreme Court justices attend. So I'm just befuddled at this present time as to why, again, a lot of people aren't talking about it. One thing I do want to say, and again, this could have happened, I just haven't seen it yet. So if it has, someone please let me know in the chat, or you have my email, you can let me know, and I will most certainly come and say, actually, this person spoke on it, and I did not know. Again, I can't be 1,000 places at one time. I really wish that I could, but I cannot. But this man targeted, which I'll illustrate in a few moments, a lot of different groups, and I'm again, I'm befuddled because I thought that Vice President J.D. Vance is a Catholic. Catholics happen to be one of the groups that Lous Geri, according to reports, exuded animosity against. So if that were the case, just me, I would think that there would be a lot said or expressed from the vice president. Again, he very may well have, but I have not seen anything. Usually, when he has press conferences or comments that are made, they're plastered all over social media. Again, there's a possibility that he has spoken up against this. I'm just saying I have not seen that yet. So if some of you have, again, please do not hesitate to let me know so that I may make that correction. Thank you very much. Let us continue. Geri, Lous Geri, later handed the bomb technician a manifesto consisted of 9 pages torn from a notebook with the title Written Negotiations for the Avoidance of Destruction of Property via Detonation of Explosives, according to an affidavit. Again, this is just sick. A review of the manifesto revealed his significant, and I want you all to pay attention to this. A review of the manifesto revealed his significant animosity towards, number one, the Catholic Church. Number two, again, I'm very surprised I have not heard many people speak on this. Again, this is just my opinion. Please understand that. Members of the Jewish faith. 3. Members of SCOTUS, or the Supreme Court of the United States, and ICE facilities, according to the affidavit. So I'm going to read this paragraph one more time, again, to express to you how very significant this is and why. Again, in my opinion, this hasn't been really talked about a lot. I mean, more information, yes, has come out, but this could have been, as I mentioned yesterday, extremely, extremely catastrophic. A review of the manifesto revealed, number one, his significant animosity towards the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church. Members of the Jewish faith. Members of SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, and ICE facilities per the affidavit. So I'm going to sit this there for a while. For those of you that may want to snap, be my guest. Again, viewer and listening discretion is highly advised. The man who set up a tent, he said he was loaded with explosives outside a Washington, D.C. church that was set to hold a mass attended by U.S. Supreme Court justices had been, okay, pay attention, had been arrested in Arizona at least once previously. So, as I mentioned just a few short moments ago in the broadcast, I saw this last night, but again, I was not going to get back on air. But I noticed it and said to myself, they didn't release that information, at least yesterday. They did not release it. Lous Geri, 41, who was listed by the MPD or Metropolitan Police Department, is being from Highland in southern New Jersey, was convicted. Again, viewer and listening discretion is highly advised. Was convicted of indecent exposure in Scottsdale, Arizona in 2021, according to court records. Again, I implore you to please conduct your own independent, thorough, meticulous research, even though not too many times am I going to put up something if I haven't seen it for myself. So again, I repeat to you, the man, Lous Geri, who set up a tent, he said, was loaded with explosives outside of a Washington, D.C. church that was set to hold a mass attended by U.S. Supreme Court justices, had been arrested in Arizona at least once previously. So, as I mentioned on yesterday, that he had been banned, but they did not state the reasons why. So, again, put on your critical thinking caps, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Lous Geri, 41, who was listed by the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., as being from Highland in southern New Jersey, was convicted of indecent exposure in Scottsdale, Arizona, 2021, according to court records. You saw in the complaint that there's an address in Arizona, but that address is attached to a motel. Again, think. Now, this is another engagement with one of the officers when they approached him at his tent. Geri refused, telling the officer, "You might want to stay back and call the federales. I have explosives," and this is according to the affidavit. The affidavit said that the officer noted a bomb technician with the Metropolitan Police Department's bomb squad of Geri's actions, and they approached him together. After the bomb technician told Geri that he needed him to move because of the special event, he said, "I'm aware of that. The affidavit said that Geri then threatened to test an explosive in the street. So I told you yesterday that it was my opinion that he was aware of this. Most of the time, these individuals that intend to do harm or purport to do this type of harm, they have already researched and they know about anniversaries and particular events. So, for those of you who may doubt, you can listen to my live yesterday. I specifically said that. Next, again, I'm going to leave this up for a little bit, but the important part of this that you can extrapolate is over 200. That number alone to me is mind-boggling. Over 200 devices recovered from that tent. Again, I'm just blown. He was able to do that quickly. A police sergeant said that the devices appeared. Okay, this is a operative word here. Appeared doesn't mean that they were, but according to this police sergeant, appeared to be fully functional, appearing as a combination of parts designed or intended to be converted into a destructive device. In an interview with police, Geri described his devices as grenades and explosives containing nitromethane with a rubber band securing a fuse to be used for detonation, according to the affidavit. He also stated that he had planned to use a modified bottle rockets with aluminum foil heads attached and treated thermite solution to allow for his detonation of the devices from a distance. Again, this is absolutely diabolical and sick. So let us look at, and I hope I select the right one. Pardon me if I don't. Okay, nitromethane is used in some explosive formulations and as a stabilizer for chlorinated and fluorinated hydrocarbon solvents. You can see that some of the key uses are for fuel, motorsports, rocket fuel, chemical synthesis, solvent, and right before the last, explosives. And then the last one is stabilizer. So I'm going to leave that there for a couple of moments. And finally, we'll look at some comments. Someone says MK Ultra 100%. We have another individual who says mental health is going down the hill. Someone else says we'll never know his motive. Next, you see praying hands. You also see a comment that reads, So many terrorists in this nation are in their 40s. That one in Compton, guy who was throwing bricks at ICE vehicles, was like 42. And the guy who set the PA governor's mansion on fire was nearly 40. Arrested development, lack of purpose. Get a family, dog. Next, praying hands. Another one says, Satan dwells among us. We have another that says, God laughed at his plans to do harm. Next, they do not care to share it because they hate Catholics. If we were Muslims, it would be all over. That's their agenda. Terrorist, automatic life in prison. And finally, and there are plenty, but I just selected a few. All of the demons are loose. Let us put on the armor of God. Leave that for a couple of moments before we do the final summary of 41-year-old Lous Geri, whose ID says New Jersey, but according to resources and information, he's been living out of a motel, or had been living out of a motel in Arizona for quite some time. I'm sure there's more information out there, but I'm giving you the latest at this time. So again, really quickly, to some of the uses of nitromethane. And as you can see highlighted, Geri, in his description of his devices, which again he claims included grenades and explosive that contained nitromethane, with rubber bands securing a fuse to be used for detonation. This is just crazy. Next, this relates to the Gerstein affidavit, which we saw earlier. It's case law that was referenced. And it's just some of the exchange that Lous Geri had with law enforcement, telling them, you might want to stay back and call the federales. I have explosives. Again, this is all according to the affidavit. The affidavit said that the officer notified a bomb technician. Again, anytime you have to bring in the bomb squad, this is extremely, extremely serious. And I can tell you, DC, that they do not take threats lightly at all. Again, towards the end, he was very aware of that special event. And then it is alleged, according to the affidavit, that Geri threatened to test an explosive on the street. Okay, again, the Gerstein affidavit is a sworn statement by law enforcement officers that filed with the courts to establish probable cause for an arrest, leading to a judicial review to determine if the arrests, and I'm saying plural because this is DC-wide, are lawful and that defendants should be held. This document is named after the Supreme Court case, which I just showed earlier, Gerstein versus Pugh. The purposes are for probable cause and judicial review, which I read earlier, but it's here again for you to look at. Again, the man who set up this tent, who said he was loaded with explosives, who was listed as being from southern Jersey, was convicted in 2021 of indecent exposure in Scottsdale, according to court records. And again, this is more of an exchange between Lous Geri and law enforcement, who claimed, "I'll test one out on the street. I have 100+ of them." After being told he would be removed against his will, Geri said, "Several of your people are going to pass away from one of these." Geri later handed the bomb technician a manifesto, again consisting of 9 pages torn from a notebook with the title "Written Negotiations for the Avoidance of Destruction of Property via Detonation of Explosives," according to the affidavit. A review of the manifesto revealed his, again, this is so important, revealed his significant, okay, earmark that, significant animosity towards the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, members of the Supreme Court of the United States, and ICE facilities. Again, this is all according to the affidavit. Now, this part right here really gets to the guts of all of this. A public record search by the Lion. And again, shout out to the Lion who did their due diligence. Again, you may want to cross-reference and check out the Lion. Shows that Geri was previously arrested in Arizona for indecent exposure, which I mentioned earlier, for which he was convicted by a jury. Records from the Arizona Department of Corrections show that Lous Geri of Gilbert, Arizona, reported to prison on August the 8th, 2022, and was released May the 28th, 2023, serving 9 months of a 1-year sentence. But, and I need you all to please pay attention. I have done a lot of videos, and some of you may want to refer back to some of the things I have said and warned about. I may even drop the link within this video once I have concluded. But prior to that, Geri reportedly, again, pay attention to the words, reportedly had arrests for improper use of blue and red lights, which is often used to commit law enforcement impersonation. Now, I want you all to think back to a lawmaker and her husband who were unalived in their home. This happened this year, and their family pet as well, by someone who impersonated a police officer. Again, research this. I did a story of it. I want to say the name was Melissa Hortman. Please research that and keep all of these things in mind when you hear these stories, because if you pay attention, I mean, really, not just hear what I'm saying, but actually listen, they all have a pattern. They all seem to have a connection. At least the depravity has a connection. Robbery that inflicts bodily injury or force, damage to property, computer fraud, probation violations, and a variety of less severe infractions. This, again, what they're deeming as a would-be attack over the weekend was discovered at approximately 5:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for those of you that are tuning in from other time zones or abroad. Again, thank you so much, and I appreciate you all. Police officers were assisting with the preparation of the Red Mass, a Catholic Mass meant to celebrate the opening term for the United States Supreme Court. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you cannot convince me. You may try, but you will never convince me that this right here should not be across all of the major news networks and a lot of content creators as well, because while they talked about the DC takeover, which a lot of you all were not here, okay, you have not had boots to the ground. You're going by what certain mainstream medias would like to show you. It's almost like a sports stadium or arena where they'll pan to a certain area of the arena or the stadium and show you where there are a lot of people in attendance, but the other side could be almost empty, but they won't show you that. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Everything you may see or hear may not always be 100% accurate, and I'm actually showing you that live and direct because I'm here to see it. Next, the would-be attack, as I mentioned over the weekend, was discovered approximately 5:10 a.m. when police officers were making preparations for the Red Mass. And that's when they found Lous Geri, 41 years old, who his ID said New Jersey, but further information shows that he had been living, or it was living, in a motel in Arizona. He was found in a tent on the church steps. So I'm going to leave that there for you all just to read again, absorb, not just read. I need you all to absorb again the severity of this. This is absolutely sick. Now, if this is accurate, and I'm saying if to be again prudent and responsible, if these facts that were written in the documents that I reviewed last night, as I mentioned, I reviewed quite a few. This, in my opinion, is the epitome of what could and may be deemed as a homegrown terrorist. As I mentioned earlier, and as you saw, was a disdain for the Catholic Church, members of the Jewish faith, members of the Supreme Court, and ICE agents and ICE facilities. Next, again, this is the arraignment document and the presentment document, where you can see there's no bond. Lous Geri, and this was October the 6th. Sunday was October the 5th. We are still, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, in a government shutdown. Let us not forget that. Next, this court document right here just gives a couple of charges, but in actuality, I believe there are 8. And this is the Superior Court, the District of Columbia Criminal Division. This is a complaint again, Lous Geri, and as you can see right here, Arizona. Okay. Again, most of the headlines, New Jersey man, New Jersey man. He might be in Jersey, but again, that this is what was found. And as I mentioned, he had charges in Scottsdale, Arizona. So again, this is the photo that was released of, and I'm going to say again, to be prudent and responsible, 41-year-old Lous Geri, the man who was arrested on Sunday, October the 5th, 2025, outside of the steps of St Matthews the Apostle Cathedral, hours before Red Mass, a mass that is historically set to mark the beginning of the Supreme Court term, where many of the justices attend, other politicians and dignitaries. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your thoughts on this horrible, horrible, and very scary situation, because even though law enforcement were able to arrest this man without incident, and again, applause to all of those that were able to do that. It shows you the mindset of so many people. These people are young in the grand scheme of things. Where is all of this hate and disdain coming from? And now I'm not naive, and I understand that people can hide things, but it just seems to me that there's an influx of people that they're not even hiding their hate and disdain. And when it comes to, again, political attacks, there have been so many. Now, I have not been able to upload a video yet, but I'm just going to give you a bonus piece of information. And my apologies for not remembering her name off the top of my head, but a judge just had her, I want to say, beach home in South Carolina, I believe, which they're calling arson, over the weekend. So there are people being targeted. And again, I refer you to Mr. Ivers, again, a 72-year-old who had a 236-page manifesto entitled How to Red Rum a Federal Judge. And I put that in the live from yesterday, so I'll put that link in again. Live your lives, absolutely, but I would encourage you to be vigilant, because there are a lot of people that are extremely angry and, in my opinion, unhinged. And they don't care about their lives nor anyone else's. That they're there to make a statement. And it seems to me that more and more things are getting closer and closer in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And that's not to say there are not incidents that are occurring all over the United States, but when you look at the nation's capital, where you have all of these politicians and laws and executive orders and just the protests and people that come down here daily, especially on the weekend, as I go live on the weekends when I do have time to show you how passionate a lot of these people are. Keep in mind, it's peaceful, but they express themselves, and sometimes you will hear a couple of people that may get into a heated exchange, but it's never to the point where there's actually an altercation. It doesn't even come close to that, but they do express themselves passionately. So, with that, again, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, pay attention and ask yourself, why isn't this getting more airplay? I'm not talking about my video. I'm not concerned with it. I'm talking about the information, because again, this could have been this could have been devastating and caused a lot more issues than we already have. And it's also my encouragement to you to pay attention to what's going on in your states and what type of sympathizers you may have. Because you never truly know who is who. I would like to offer a suggestion for those of you that enjoy movies. There's a movie that came out years ago, and the name of the movie is Arlington Road. And really quickly, it just teaches you that your neighbors may appear to be normal on the outside, but when you really get to know them, they could have diabolical plans that involve the government. So, with that, again, thank you all so much for tuning in. And till next time, please, please be safe, be well, and be noticed. Be healthier. Bye bye for now.